Cheers.
Excellent time here at the Alpha Male Society podcast. I am your host, Dr. Chantea, and with me today I have Dr. Michael Brandon. Well, thank you for joining me, Dr. Michael Brandon.
Likewise, thank you for having me.
All right, we are talking about what it means to be an alpha male.
Wonderful, okay.
Yes, so you're the perfect guest to start this segment of describing to the world what is an alpha male. So I have talked a little bit about this, but I would love to get your perspective.
Okay.
From a man, what do you feel is an alpha male?
So without giving a real description, it's usually easy to tell when you're in a room, everyone already kind of knows who that person is. Like, you don't really have to talk about it, you don't have to discuss it. If you think about your workplace, the gym, a team, you all kind of already know how it is. And then you can go ahead and work to defining it from there. But it's kind of like an innate thing we already know, we recognize, and you either strive for it or you don't. You have it or you don't, and do you nourish it to get there? So without a definition, that's how I start.
Beautiful, and that's absolutely right. An alpha male is one that is going to own the room.
Yeah, usually it's with someone who stands out, whether it's purposely or not. There's usually a bit more, I won't call it attitude, but there's a certain attitude that comes with it. There's we'll call it courage, or you don't mind getting your hands dirty is usually a big trait for it. And it's, if you need someone to get ish done, it's already the person looking at how to do it.
They know exactly what to do, when to do it. So, Dr. Brandon, Dr. Mike, you have a lot of names that people call you, yes?
We'll stick with those two for now.
Yeah, we're going to stick with those, absolutely. Would you describe yourself as an alpha male?
I like to think so. I guess I do think it's more up to other people to define that, so I'll sit here courageously and say, yeah, sure.
And I will affirm.
It's pretty easy to, again, even if it's what are you striving for? Mm-hmm. So usually if they need with a doctor in front of it, I mean, I don't know how you've touched this one before, but I don't think you necessarily have to be a male to be, we'll call it alpha, however you want to call it. Usually that's usually a good start. You know, what is the title? Because it shows that someone is going for something. Mm-hmm. There's some gusto, some ambition for it, and people are going to go for it. So yeah, with the side of the doctor, and then it's what else are you doing? You know, it's I can throw you easily on this one too. It's not just the doctor. I like doing now amateur boxing. You on the side, you just like trying to show how much stronger you are than everybody else in your shows, right? So I mean, there's much of an attitude for it. But so with alpha male, I'll probably keep using the male onto it. But it's very much an alpha thing.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit. I did another one. What alpha males look for in women, and a typical alpha female as well.
Probably similar traits.
Yes, very similar traits. So of the top 10, and they can be 10 to 15 to 20 different traits that alphas, men and women, exhibit. Confidence is definitely one of them. We've gone through the loyalty, very ambitious, as you were saying. They are the go-getters. You're going to get things done. You're not afraid to take the time to make yourself look good and feel good. So appearance is very important to a lot of alphas. Their physical strength.
It shows that you care the way you look, and then, well, you also just feel better when you feel like you look good. I mean, it's plain and simple.
Exactly.
You want to feel good, look good, it's a good start.
So what is your typical, you said you just got back into boxing and martial arts. So how do you, as the alpha, like to stay fit?
I mean, you already kind of just identified that one for me, but I love being in the room and it's a challenge, and maybe that's another way we can characterize this.
Awesome.
Is that you don't look for easy things. And I never boxed before. I actually didn't plan on boxing. It accidentally fell upon me. I was looking to get back into jiu-jitsu, which is my base. I just really couldn't do it, we'll say time-wise. So next challenge, okay, I can make boxing, I guess I'm going to be a boxer. And it was pretty easy to stand out there a little bit. Of course, challenge yourself. So when I'm doing the workouts in that setting, it's a group setting. You pretty quickly realize where everybody else is. And especially when it comes to like the conditioning components, I always pick the 2 other people that's in the room that I think are the next best. And make sure I'm always beating them. It's a good way to keep the drive going. It's like, you always want to say you want to do the best you can do. Well, a good way of doing the best you can do is compare somebody. If there's not someone that you think is better than you in the room, who's second best, and make sure you smoke them into it. And it's a good way of always keeping yourself challenged. I think that answered your question.
No, I love everything that you're saying, because as an alpha, you are always looking to challenge yourself. As an alpha, you want to assert dominance over other people. So boxing's a great fit for you. Because you naturally, you can see the enthusiasm with it, that is carrying you through. Because when you're mentally exhausted, you put a lot of time into your patients, you put a lot of time into prep work, running the businesses. So there's divided attention, and you have to find ways to refuel yourself.
It's a competitive outlet.
Mm-hmm.
I realized I didn't have that for a little while. I don't know if you ever had that issue when you realize you haven't competed in a while. It's like, why am I down? I feel tired all of a sudden. I didn't realize I needed that outlet. It was obvious when I got it back, I'll tell you that. Like, it was very straightforward. But yeah, the competitive edge. It's great.
It's fantastic. So you have some great news that my Mr. Dr. Michael Alpha here is now recently engaged.
Yes, about 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Today,
So we're going to celebrate
Cheers.
Dr. Michael Brandon's engagement. So cheers to you and your alpha status and landing the girl of your dreams.
Yeah, who found online of all places, which I had a problem with, believe it or not, at first. Like, I did not want to do online dating whatsoever. To me, how do I phrase this? I felt desperate at first, to be honest, doing it. And I realized I just couldn't meet anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But, in office, 60 plus hours, I know you know how that is. Like, okay, and then out of office, let's not touch it. Where do you have time? So, honestly, it was actually a great experience, the entire thing of it. From the finding to the dating to, proposing, that really wasn't even stressful at all. The day before was worse. But outside of that, it's been good.
So what was your best site? We set up some profiles. Where did you find the most luck in your online dating experience?
Both where I found Danny and, we'll say, most attention was on Bumble.
Okay.
I can guess why, but I can tell you why I liked it, and it's probably related to it, is that the girls have to make the first move. So there's none of that guessing. If they reach out, okay, they're interested enough.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about, you mentioned earlier briefly about alpha females and a lot of the same traits. Well, if you go on any other sites that the girl doesn't have to respond, there's a difference of how outgoing are they.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to find the more outgoing ones on the website, but you're forced to, as opposed to the expectation the guys do. Did drive me a little nuts at times, I'll be honest.
Sure.
But definitely the most experience with Bumble. Granted, that was me personally. I've heard a lot of people with pretty much all the others. You'd be surprised. I've heard some success. I was surprised on some of the success stories I heard from certain ones. Like a lot of people on Hinge. That surprised me.
Very, okay, yes. Hinge is
well, I know
one of the
several
newer
that got
ones.
engaged from it.
Mm-hmm. But Bumble was good for you.
That was one good for me.
Is
I'll be
it?
putting in a thing soon to post for their, I forget what they call it, but their reaction board or whatever.
Yes, it's an amazing experience. So how did you go from your profile? What were your key words that you put on there to describe yourself?
Oh, yeah. Kind of interesting because I noticed a huge shift from where we'll say when I just made a profile versus when I tried.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge difference.
Let's go through it.
So when I first put a profile together, it was, I did in like 5 or 6 minutes. Answer 3 questions. Like, what's your favorite food? What would be your last meal you do? What's something you like, etc. And just answer the first thing coming in your mouth. And you realize as you're going through, you see the same stuff on everything. Whether it's you're looking through males, you're looking through females, all the males have the exact same stuff, all the females have the exact same stuff. So do not put something, if you're a guy, I like outdoors. Every freaking guy put on outdoors. There's no detail about it. You're going to swipe through, you're not going to get any attention from it. Or if you want to put you outdoors, if that's important to you, what about outdoors?
Mm-hmm.
Be details. Don't be so freaking vague, which everyone does all the time. Wishy-washiness does not get you where you want. You want something, you ask for it, and then you take it. So you got to be more detailed on that matter. So I love outdoors. I go hiking every Sunday. I miss whitewater rafting. Now you have something to connect to and start with.
Beautiful.
Because otherwise there's just an open talking point, and that doesn't go anywhere.
Correct.
So I noticed that a lot, where just break through something, give some detail. Don't be so wishy-washy and open about it. And once I change those things and we'll say, I'm like, okay, let's give this a real shot.
Mm-hmm.
It was much different. The amount of people I got sending messages went from like 1 or 2 a day to, I actually paid the $1.99 to see everyone that I couldn't see from initially into it, just because why the heck not. Got a lot more hits that way just by giving a little bit of detail to where it's actually a story of who is this person.
Well, it's who you are.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking to attract a woman that wants to know who you are and enjoy the things you do, you have to tell them a little bit of nuggets of information, right?
Yeah, like there was someone I started talking to, they said into martial arts. Like, okay, got my attention a little bit and found out, they did Taekwondo 12 years ago. And now they do cardio kickboxing. I had nothing against those.
Yeah.
But my expectation was far different because there was a lack of detail. Like, I was actually turned off or less excited when I felt like, it's cardio kickboxing. I suppose if they put it there, I would have thought, okay, that's cool, they're in shape, but it was just what they told me first compared to second. It completely changed my outlook on it.
Absolutely.
It might be considered a little unfair, but it's also the way our minds work. Give us the details. Like, what is it that I want to know about?
Current. You know, I mentioned in a recent talk that your profile matters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, putting in accurate descriptions of what you're currently doing. What do you currently look like?
Yes.
Not those pictures that, you know, as you said she used to do martial arts. Well, it could be 10 years ago. Do you look like you did 10 years ago, or is it current?
I've heard that guys, from what I've heard, do that a lot more. Of having, straight up lying sometimes about their height, which, I mean, don't do that. If you're 5'5", own it. Like, there's nothing wrong with it unless if you make assumptions or make people insinuate to it that there's something wrong with that. Yeah, they're already going to look down to you, literally and metaphorically for it.
Exactly. You know.
The whole, we'll call it fibbing, or having a photo of you 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably fibbing at this point. Not most of us look the way we did 5 years ago.
No, and it doesn't represent an authentic self.
No, not at all. And the photos make a huge difference too, just the order you put onto it. Again, especially for the guys on this one. If you're looking to date someone versus you're just looking for a one night, very different way to do it. If you got a good physique, you want to show it off. Don't do the first picture. Women are going to look at that. I mean, sorry, I'm talking for you. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I love hearing your perspective.
Women are going to look at it and instantly judge. Shirt off in that first picture. Okay, he looks good, but I'm looking for a relationship.
You're confirming exactly the things that I have already put out to my alphas out there, and the alphas that don't know that they're alphas but want to be the alphas. Yes, you don't put the shirtless pictures up. You just don't do it, and I like that you said you don't put it first.
If you really want to, make it the third or fourth one.
There you go.
Because what you put first is going to be taken as that's most important. So don't do that one. I don't even remember what photos. I had one of playing with my 9-month-old, or it was under a year-old nephew. Okay, that I don't think it was the first one.
Because that would also paint the wrong image, just that you had a kid.
Yeah. I did put a note in there about not my kid, nephew, love kids, which said a couple of things. Okay, not a kid, some people are looking for it not. I was like, oh, they're probably okay with kids at that point. So again, what message are you getting? Be direct. Mm-hmm. Don't let the room for insinuations or everything. I lost track of what the question was, but it was a good dialogue we're having back and forth.
No, I mean, it's your profile. You know, what are you getting out of your profile? Basically, what you're putting into it. Yeah. So if you put 2 minutes of effort into it, you're going to get 2 minutes worth of results. Mm-hmm. You know, I said before, women go on to Tinder, 8 to 10 times a day. They'll spend 6 minutes plus, scrolling through yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So those first impressions make a huge difference of whether they want to then reach out and talk to you or not. So everything you're saying is just solidifying, what it is and this whole process of truly attracting the woman that you want to be with.
Yeah. I've heard people on both sides of the coin, they swipe for everything, and then if they match, then they decide. I recommend don't do that. Like, spend the extra 15 seconds it takes to look at the profile and then actually decide.
Right.
So I've heard both men and women that they'll just slide right on everybody. What, right? Yeah.
Swipe right.
They'll just slide on everybody.
Yes.
Don't do that. Just make the judgment first, because then you have to do it later anyway. Put thought into it.
Absolutely.
Doesn't take too much. Just know yourself or what you want to be and show it.
So what was your first date like?
Okay. So, sorry, Danny. I was 20 minutes early. She lived 20 minutes away. She was 25 minutes late.
Okay.
We did talk constantly leading up to it. So there was a lot of excitement involved. And so before the question was up, why the heck I stayed other than I'm not exactly sure, and I drove over an hour for it, wasn't me. I was excited. Mm-hmm. So she did something really well on her part that had me excited, even though she left after the time that she was supposed to arrive there. I was still interested enough to stay. So that can be a whole other talk on what happened on that end. Mm-hmm. But it felt pretty natural at first. I'm kind of big on the first 2 dates are kind of business transactions. Mm-hmm. It's, all right, let's talk a little bit, see is it worth a second time? Is it worth a third time? We had Mexican food and margaritas. Not at all surprised, I'm sure.
Tequila and Mexican food, 2 of my favorite things.
After a couple hours, we got kicked out. Because well, I guess
Were
after
you
3.5
inappropriate,
hours.
Dr. Brandon?
No, not date 1 or 2. But for the first one, we were just there too long. It was going into the main hour, so we had to go out, which was always a good sign. If you're there, quote unquote, too long, you know it's going well.
It's going well, yes.
There was a big icebreaker for us. It was, ironically, I can give the story later. Neither one of us thought the other one cursed at all. Which, again, expectations, what's going into it. And at one point, I think I actually apologized to go and just like, I'm sorry, but I've been holding back. I don't like curse out loud, but it is part of my vocabulary at times, especially in the informal setting. And the response, we'll just call it was an icebreaker, head drop. She said something. We'll just say she said something in terms of thank God, and then we were good from there right on because we realized we were hiding part of ourselves. You know, it's like, I'm not saying condone everyone has to use certain vocabulary, but when you do, don't change yourself on that date. They're going to find out. I mean, if you get to know someone, don't be what you think they're going to be. And I guess we both realized we were doing that a little bit and just stopped it done. Knew pretty quickly this was worth going forward. Like an hour into it, we already knew there was going to be a second date.
That's a beautiful thing.
Don't always get that. Almost never got that. I can't say I didn't any other times. I don't recall, but...
You've had some long-standing relationships in the past.
Yeah, there was
before this one.
Couple over a year, one over almost 8 years. I mean, there was nothing new to me in that regard. I knew what I was looking for at this point.
So you got specific in your...
Yes.
Yes. Did you set SMART goals?
God. Not consciously, but likely otherwise, yes. Because again, know what you are, know what you're looking for.
Doesn't
and
get
don't
any
fake
simpler
anything.
than that.
It shouldn't.
Swipe what you want for. Swipe
and right.
Don't just
Swipe
blindly
it
swipe,
right.
because then you're settling.
Exactly. And alphas don't settle.
No, you shouldn't.
Alphas don't settle. Alphas know what they want. They put it out there. The law of attraction is a real thing. When we say what we want, we get what we want.
It's not always easy. But settling by definition, yeah, you're settling for something less than you want.
And who wants to be... So, this is really funny. So, How I Met Your Mother is a great show. An absolutely great show. Especially at the end of a long day, and you just may have had one of these, you may have had some gummies, you're just feeling really good because you're trying to de-stress after a long work day. So, one of the episodes that we watched quite recently was there's a reacher and a settler.
Okay. Don't think I know this one.
Okay, so someone is always reaching for more, and someone settles below what they should have. Now, this isn't the case for every relationship. In most successful relationships, it is an equal give and take.
Yeah, both are reaching, both are trying.
Correct.
You can tell, if you're the reacher, you can tell.
And we don't necessarily want to be the reacher or the settler, but we want to be specific in what we want. And I think that you did that, using your past experiences, solidifying what it is that you truly wanted, so that you're not settling, but you're not reaching for something that's past the moon.
Nope.
You grabbed exactly what you wanted.
Goals, not games. Like,
Love it.
What are you playing for?
Exactly. I love that. So let's think in terms of society.
Okay.
And it's a fun transition because you are confirming everything that we talked about as being a true alpha male. Society today, and maybe it's just me, I feel that there is a lack of alphas out there.
I agree, and a lot of times you're almost, people try to put you down for it.
Yeah.
Why are you trying so hard? Well, what is this going to get you? Like, I'll show you when I have it. So, yes, I very much agree, probably with a pretty strong opinion on this one.
Yes. So, men are not as assertive as they used to be.
No. If you've heard the soy boy phenomenon, it goes
I'm
probably
so glad
hand in
you brought that up, Dr. Brandon. And we've had different podcasts and talks about the detriments of soy to men and their growth and development. So, your experiences with soy boy phenomenon, as we'll call it.
Yeah, it's a medical thing and it's a cultural personality trait.
Yes. And what is leading to this?
Where to start on this one? At a certain point, people are trying to read benefits for, we'll call it, being soft. And there are benefits out there for it. But you don't have any control over what those benefits are. You do have control over what you want to go for.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how to phrase this one so well. But yeah, so...
Look, we want the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yep.
You know, our listeners, if you're an alpha out there or you're an alpha wannabe, you want the hard truth. There's no sugarcoating things. We're going to tell it like it is, and you're going to listen.
So without being soft on that one anymore, phrasing, is so many people are afraid to go for something.
Yeah.
And then if you go too hard, if you're in a group of 8 people and you're the one that's always trying, why do you work so much? Why are you trying to do that? I've been asked by people, some in a positive loop, some in low, all right, you're over 30, why are you trying to box? So you think you're going to compete? And it's like, hell yeah, I'm going to compete. Like, why else am I going to do this?
Right.
If you want to do this to be in shape, knock yourself out. I'm looking to try to do that to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And people, it's now weird people look at it as being weird. If you're trying to get in shape, or I'm trying to eat better, people ask you, like, was something wrong? Like, you're now the weirdo for trying to look better, trying to feel better, trying to have a goal that they think is ambitious. It's either step back or step up. And so many people are stuck in the attitude of that one. And, you know, we all have our little reality checks here and there, but all that is either if you fail a goal, all right, what's the next one? If you succeed a goal, what's the next one? There should always be a next one.
Always.
I already know what my next goals are going to be with the boxing route. Already done.
Fabulous.
They should be. Because, yes, you have to have something you want to achieve. What do you want to accomplish in life? There should be multiple things.
Mm-hmm.
There should also already be a next step.
Mm-hmm.
At least the next step.
Yes. Society today, from my experiences, is that nobody's planning anything.
Not
There,
at all.
there are no next steps. People are haphazardly floating through life.
I'll start that goal on Monday.
Yep, always. Oh, that one's too tough. Let me peg it down a little bit, and I messed up. I'm gonna restart. And that's great that you can be aware of restarting. But what's the purpose of restarting? If we're not creating true, specific, smart goals, something that, like it just says, specific, you're gonna measure it. This is how alphas dominate business. It is not haphazard. It is not happy-go-lucky, oh, maybe I'll have somebody walk through my front doors today. Oh, maybe that phone is going to ring. No, alphas make shit happen. Whether it's dating, whether it's, your sport, whether it's business, you need to make it happen. And without a clear path, you're never going anywhere.
And then fear holds a lot of people back, or they allow it to hold them back. Mm-hmm. You're allowed to be afraid. Personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with fear.
No.
There's a problem if you let fear control something or change anything. So again, going back to the boxing, just because we throw it out there a few times. I've been asked what happens if you lose. Like, 1, why the hell would I think about that? And 2, what difference does that make?
Mm-hmm.
Like, my goal is to win my next match. Okay, after that, my goal is to win my next match. Like, there's another goal. I'd want to win it more emphatically. Done. So yeah, have a goal and then know what you're doing and don't worry about if you fail. You're going to fail at some point. You have 10 goals. If you don't fail, you didn't try hard enough. So if you say that you've never failed, you're either full of it or you're aiming way too freaking low and you're more of a wannabe, not an actual.
Mm-hmm. How do you find balance? Being a doctor, being an athlete, being a good boyfriend now, ex-boyfriend, current fiance.
I love it. She hasn't gotten tired of that, by the way. Calling the ex-girlfriend has not. She smiles still by it.
That's great.
So I'm going to try to prolong this one.
A scholar, a researcher. You have a lot of hats that you wear.
Some of those hats help off balance the other one.
There you go.
Boxing actually was a big outlet for me. My life got easier and less stressful now that I could compete again. It wasn't just, again, the cardio kickboxing. For everyone who does that, all power to you. That didn't do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like work. But joining the gym, getting competitive with a few other, I box with amateurs and pros all the time. It pushes me. That has been my therapy. It helps me out so much more balance the work component to it. There's always work. Like, there's always something to do. If you say, I'll finish it when I'm done, no you won't, you're never done.
Mm-hmm.
So having other goals help balance off the other things. So I guess a lot of people feel like, I don't want to add too much to your plate. Well, 1, you don't know what too much is. Like, you have absolutely no idea what too much is. I don't have this experience, but for those of you that have kids, you've done a lot more than you probably think you could have because you now have to. So put more stuff on your plate and you step up. So I guess that's how I balance it. I just do more a lot of times. You do have to have your outlets.
Uh-huh.
Cooking and outside of boxing and other athletics, that's my outlet.
Love that. A man that can cook is a good man. He's a keeper.
It's helped. But, I mean, I enjoy doing it. Not like I always enjoy it, which, that's another thing. Don't expect to always get thrilled from the things that thrill you, and don't let that put you down. Because I have people, you hear this all the time, oh, I don't like to exercise. I'm someone who I say I do like to exercise. Do not think that means I always want to.
Yes.
Right, and that's, I guess, another illusion that people put off. People look at us and think that we do always enjoy it. I shouldn't speak for you, Will, again. I bet you don't always like to do it.
No.
But if people ask you, I'm sure you do enjoy it.
More often than not.
Yes.
Absolutely. But there are some days where you are dragging ass and you can't even keep your eyes open. But you know what? You got a 5-mile run to do. You got a WOD to finish. You've got a tonal workout. And you know what? You feel so much better when you're done.
I've never regretted doing it.
There you go.
I've certainly regretted not. Probably about 25 to 30% of the time I don't want to. Yeah, I'd say roughly 100% of the time I'm glad I did.
Yes.
Even if you walk out like, wow, I'm so hurt now from that. Can't wait for tomorrow.
It's rewarding.
Very much so.
Yes.
And they all help off-balance each other. So again, the different hats, they just stack up well. So never worry about having too much on your plate. If you're doing it right, there's always feels like too much, but it's why you have multiple things. Mm-hmm. If you do one thing for 40 hours a day, that's going to get dull and boring and get old. Add another thing for 10 more hours that week. Mm-hmm. It helps offset it. Who cares you're doing more? Mm-hmm. You get further that way too. It's a bonus.
So we talked about alpha men and the qualities and the traits that you guys have and exude. Mm-hmm. And the alpha woman, the type that complements an alpha male. How would you describe your fiance?
It's a lot of the same traits.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so she tried accounting, didn't like it. We'll leave it there for now. She got into teaching. Instantly, it was first or second date, she told me she's not going to be a teacher. She's going to teach because she wants to do admin. She wants to go up, be a superintendent. Well, there's goals outside the first one. Again, if that's where you want to end, that's fine. But what are you going to do to improve it? Like if someone just wants to be a teacher, I don't want to make it seem like talking down. Do you have other things outside of teaching then? Like, okay, maybe then you want to go do something else or go do here. Mm-hmm. Like, no, right away. Going back to school to get my master's in education. Again, this is her. And then it's within 6 years, I want to be doing something in the district. Done. There's goals. There's aspirations. There's the next step. So, again, I guess I kind of knew what I was looking for in that sense. Mm-hmm. And then you find it. Mm-hmm. Set yourself up for it. Like does attract like. Mm-hmm. We hear a lot about opposites attract. If you believe that or you see that, I fully believe you're just looking at certain aspects. Because statistically speaking, opposites don't attract. You can have large opposite components.
Yes.
Like there are definitely certain things that her and I are very opposite about, but overall not so much. So yeah, a lot of the same traits. We can reiterate them, but we're just going to be redundant in that.
Exactly.
I can give examples, but again, they still add up to.
So I want a fun story of something that completely irks you, that she's not going to change, and how you overcome that for the next 50 to 60, 80 years.
We can let you choose which one, I guess, if you want. Two ones came to mind.
All right, perfect.
First one is, we'll call it, the producer back here is going to smile when I talk about cleanliness, how it bothers me, but it's the kitchen. That part bothers me.
Wait.
That part
bugs you?
The kitchen being clean drives me nuts.
Because you don't want it clean?
No, I keep that stuff very clean. Less things I'm more loose about. That one, I'm very big on being spotless about it. But there's maybe 1 or 2 nights a week, I'll get home around 8 o'clock, that I don't tidy up the kitchen. That part drives me nuts. We both don't agree on what that part being clean is. And the other one is, this probably comes more from the attitude component of being interrupted when talking. Drives me freaking nuts. And that does go back and forth a little bit. I don't foresee either of those ever changing. But there's enough of the positive things that comes by it. Mm-hmm. I've heard a little bit, I won't pull them up, those are your stories to tell, but I know for personal things on your sides. And it's like, okay, those things aren't going to change. You guys you'll talk about it, really just to calm yourself down at the moment. Okay. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. But it's looking for most of the other positives. I don't think you should ever ignore the negatives, because then you're just going to do it more. Mm-hmm. Again, that's coming back to being complacent and settling. But those are definitely the 2 things on my end. I like to think she'll only think of 2 on mine, but there's a good thing that she's not in this chair next to you as well.
Don't worry, we'll get the female perspective of online dating very, very soon.
Oh, yeah.
With another guest. I can't wait to bring Michelle on board for that one. But I love that you said, yes, there's always going to be negatives. There's no such thing as perfect, and I preach that a lot. We all have amazing advantages and disadvantages. There's personality conflicts, that can arise because someone isn't as clean as the other person. But having open dialogue and open communications, can alleviate some of that frustration and just acceptance.
In terms of anything, even relationships, have your idea of what perfect is. Don't expect to get it.
Mm-hmm.
But how close can you get?
Mm-hmm.
And do have a mark of where you're willing, they're kind of, if you're talking yourself into it, it's not close enough. Plain and simple. I hear this all the time. Again, usually more women, though, more open to talking about it. I was like, he's good, but I forget who it was that said it, but if there's I actually think it was in Game of Thrones. But if someone's going to say but, everything before it doesn't matter anymore. It's like, there's this, but all of a sudden everything else prior doesn't matter. You're now settling to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. So have an idea what your perfect is. Don't expect it to be perfect, but do expect it to be a certain amount of, a certain percentage of close. Because that you do deserve, and you will find. Mm-hmm. Could be a little frustrating looking for it, but it's there. Just like any other goal, don't give up.
I was going to say, anything that is worth having, getting, and doing is worth the time, the effort, and the frustration.
Yeah, you'll find it eventually. You found it younger, kudos. Yes.
It's very interesting to see because, becoming a doctor is not something that happens overnight. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of sacrifice, and it's a lot of hopeless, late nights and everything else that goes along with it. You're not out there dating as much, so you're starting off a little bit later in life, but that doesn't mean that there's the right time or the wrong time to start your life.
Yeah, don't compare it to others. You'll be ahead in anyone you compare it to, you'll be ahead in certain things, behind certain things. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Again, what are your goals? Because as soon as you start to compare, your goals aren't the same as theirs. Done. It's very cut dry right there.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's actually very brilliantly said. I want you to tell me, if you think of global society and celebrities and athletes, is there one man that stands out as the alphas of all alphas that people would gravitate towards or recognize?
Given more time, I'm sure I'll have a different answer, but the first one came to mind was Brad Pitt of all things.
Yes, he's on the list.
That was the first one I came of in Fight Club. That was the first thing I thought of.
Yes, love Fight Club.
And then the mind was going to, what's the athletes that I like? I mean, you should always have people you look forward to or you want to beat.
There's one that I put on the list because of your background in MMA and fighting and boxing is Conor McGregor.
Bastard.
I know. But you talk about a man that just wants to, the swag and the era of him is there. You know, there is no doubt that Conor McGregor is a man's man.
He promoted the swag walk. He made his own whiskey line.
Everybody is following him.
He says what he's going to do, and he does it. And if he fails, screw that, I'm going to do this next.
Yep.
Watch what he does.
Right. Brad Pitt. Everybody loves Brad Pitt. He's an amazing actor. He's very good looking. You can see he still takes pride in his appearance, and that's a big thing with alphas. George Clooney.
Okay. Yep. Great.
Give me the Oceans guys, right? They're so fun in those movies, but their personalities. I love the show Billions. Bobby Axelrod. Yes. Do you get much more alpha than that? Probably not. So there's people out there to emulate in real life. There's people out there that you can get ideas from in terms of how they interact with other people, what it is that they wear. Dressing is a very important thing in terms of what alphas are perceived as. Do you match head to toe, or are you wearing things that you're stuck in 1970 and this is 2022, almost 2023, society changes, trends change.
Here's a weird one, but more I'm thinking about it is, we'll call it more of a hidden alpha, but if you see his non-film stuff, you'll know more what I mean. Jim Carrey. He does not at all push that off, but when he's talking interviews, very different versus when he's acting. Mm-hmm. And he'll go very much about his goals, because one of my favorite little stories, where before he got his first big movie, he kept a check in his wallet that had $1 million, and he put on the notes like for acting purposes. He kept it in there for it was around a year. He made sure he looked at it every day. It's like, make this happen. And then I forget which one big movie it was. We could pick which one. I don't think it was The Pet Detective. It was something around in that time
Ace
frame.
Ventura.
Yeah, I don't remember. It was one of those. And then he hit it.
Uh-huh.
He put another check in his wallet for the next $5 million. So he's not, in his movie, he's not at all what we talked about or described. He's kind of a little bit of a weirdo. But he owns everything he does. He always has goals, and he's always going for it.
That is a true alpha.
Yeah. Figure we'll throw someone, not the same as Brad Pitt or George Clooney, but it's also right there.
Right there,
Those
absolutely.
are all the characteristics. He just did in a very different way.
You know, one that I came across, doing different research, and one that I would not necessarily have said was Hugh Jackman. Came up a lot.
Okay.
You
Didn't
know,
think about it, but I can go with that.
Yeah, definitely well put together. Great on stage, off stage, owns who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the biggest thing is if you're an alpha, you own who you are.
You'll see a lot of high-level athletes and actors because they don't work their asses off to get there. You don't usually fall upon that kind of stuff.
Mm-mm.
You don't accidentally succeed in much of anything in life.
Nope. And those that are successful are not necessarily alphas.
True.
Success does not showcase the true person. There's great athletes out there, but they have horrible off-stage presence and off-field shenanigans, we shall say, but on the field they can be great, but there's not a role model, they're not setting a good example, they're not leading true to who they are, they're hot-headed, and something that alphas do is they control their tempers, they control their emotions. You said, we all get afraid of things. Fear is not uncommon, and it's not something that we're never going to experience. But it's how do you respond to the fear? What do you do? Does it fuel you, or does it cripple you?
Yeah. It's fine to have. Just don't let it slow you down.
Right.
A little healthy dose of fear in certain circumstances are great. Again, for the 9th time, back to the boxing realm. It's good to be a little bit hesitant, a little bit nervous.
Mm-hmm. When we're over cocky, bad things happen,
But effing go for it.
I love that. I love that perspective. If there was one piece of information that you would love to give to the guys out there that are dating, that haven't been married, that don't have kids, that have a good job, what piece of advice could you give them to truly embrace what it means to be an alpha male?
Don't try to be one. Like, if you're already there and don't try to overinflate or stuff, because it just comes across as bullshit. It's probably the best one for it. So that's back to I hate the term, but true to yourself. Mm-hmm. While trying to still be the best at it, is don't overinflate. Have big goals, but there's people who exaggerate things, or if you see people that constantly you see them push back a little, I'm like, come on. Like, at a certain point, you can read BS.
Yes.
So, don't overinflate yourself, I guess is the best way I can call that.
Okay. I love that. It's very fitting.
Because you'll see with people, and it's just like, roll my eyes when you see it. It's like, don't puff that out so much. Like, it's, don't put on a show. Be the show, don't try to make it go around.
Be the show. There you go,
Big
alphas.
show.
Be the show. Turn heads, stop traffic, shake hands, kiss babies, all those beautiful things. You're the man. You're the man because you're the man. You're not the man because you're pretending to be the man. And women, we see right through that.
Yeah.
We see right through the bullshit.
And you won't tell the guy. It's up to his friends to tell him. And if he's the strong man in the group, they won't. But yeah, we'll see right past it.
I love that.
The fakeness. Aim big, but don't pretend you're a lot bigger than you are. You'll get there, but it'll be seen very quickly.
Very, very nice. Has anyone ever come to you and said that you're an alpha type personality?
Yeah, recently in the boxing gym.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was one guy said something along the lines of, cool it. I wasn't contacting anybody who was there. I just heard 30 seconds left, so it was actually a very proud moment. It was the 4th punching bag I broke the chain of. It doesn't actually mean anything. Someone else will do it, but it's a real feel-good feeling at it. I like grunted or made some big noise because it felt good.
You're proud.
I walked by, I said, cool. It was something like that, just cool it. When I wanted him then to be the punching bag. And then another guy who I usually aim very well with to try to push and compete against, one of my favorite partners, This kid's like, nah, he's already done class, let's come punch. And then we did a little shadow boxing session right there. So, I guess not directly, but pretty damn close. And people don't usually also tell you unless they're also close to it.
Yes.
You're not going to have someone, equal level will appreciate equal level. Or you can see people at equal above you. It's kind of like you don't look for people who's behind you, why look back? Same concept.
Well, and you find that in the animal kingdom too. You know, like there's the alphas of the animal. You know, we often talk about lions and sheep
Yes.
in our industries and working with people, and there's definitely the lions out there. There are the alphas, and there's the sheep, the followers that will do what the alphas tell them to do.
Yeah, it's obvious.
It's very obvious, you know, who you are. And if you are a sheep and you are a follower and that's who you are, then stay true to who you are in that capacity.
And own it. And it'll be in different components. You might be, more of a sheep in one part of your life, but then more of an alpha in the other. You see a lot really in relationships too, in different parts of that. But it's what are you overall? Because if you try to be too aggressive all the time, you come out as a dick.
And the egos.
And it's usually when you try too hard, which back to other things we've already talked about.
Yeah. So I just want to thank you for helping our audience to understand the nuances of what an alpha experiences on a day-to-day level. You know, the joys, trials, and tribulations of online dating. You know, it's
fun.
You've been dating your now fiance about 2 years?
Almost 3.
Almost 3.
Yeah, Valentine's Day would actually be the 3rd.
So there you go. And you kind of knew right away she was special.
Yeah, I knew I was done looking well before the year mark. But yeah, like I said, first date, I knew there was going to be more. It wasn't like, oh, there's going to be a second. Like, pretty quickly. You click or you don't. Back to the dating component, don't force it. If you're forcing it, that's your answer.
It's like playing those games like Cracker Barrel, right? And you're sticking,
Oh,
like, you can't fit the square peg in the round hole, right?
Probably can't you shove it hard enough, but you don't.
It's just not going to be as pleasurable for all parties if you keep trying to force things that aren't going to happen and that don't fit your mold.
The dating world, you know quickly. Like, you might not know if they're the person, but you know if it's worth continuing. If you have to already suddenly, think about it, it's probably not.
Did you do a lot of planning for your dates?
Not the first one. Absolutely, almost none, actually. Outside of what am I going to wear, which also wasn't too much thought into it, I didn't really play much at all for it. After about the 3rd date onward, yes. Because now I cared enough to try to impress. At first, it's like, is it worth my time? I hate to say it that way, but that's very much the way I looked at it.
It's an interview process.
Yeah.
You have to ask probing questions. You want to understand, do I want to invest another hour with you?
I wasn't going to put too much... I don't think I thought about it this way at the time, but I wasn't going to put too much effort into... I don't know if it's worth it or not. Let's go find out if it's worth it. Date 3 onward, yeah, there was a lot more effort on my part to it. Probably more on 2, but it's, show up. See, is this worthwhile for me, and do you agree? And that's pretty much, so after date 2, there was more thought into it. Because I knew it was I now cared enough about it to try.
And when you care, it goes a long way to the women. They can tell.
Pretty quick.
Very much so. And it goes a long way for us to see what effort the guys are putting in. Because we put a lot of effort into looking good for our dates. And to show up to somebody that's sloppy and half-assing, brushing hair and, face and whatnot. Your hands might be dirty. Well, the girls not want to go out with you again. So it's nice to know that your philosophy of the more you're interested in somebody, the more effort you have to put out there as well.
Yeah, and then as long as it's mutual, you can continue. If it wasn't mutual, I would have ended. Plain and simple.
Plain and simple.
Because then it's the, reacher and settler.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, congratulations, Dr. Brandon, on your recent engagement. And more details to come on the future actual wedding and what happens after that. So we'll keep in tabs with you and bring you back. Maybe the future Dr. Brandon, the Mrs. Dr. Brandon, can give us her 2 cents on things.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to the future ones where you said about Michelle coming in.
Yes.
I'll be curious how that view will be going.
Yes.
So I've talked to her a little bit about it. I hope she says everything because there's some fun opinions and stories on that.
It's so great. The dating world it's changing. People are changing, society is changing, what we can do is changing, so continue this journey towards being just the best version of yourself.
And know what you want that to be.
Yeah.
You
Set
won't always remember it.
clear expectations of yourself, clear expectations of your partner, and let's find what we're missing. What can you do to fill in that missing puzzle piece to make you a whole, true, authentic, awesome catch for that next person.
And then when you're there, what can you do to improve and to keep it? Because a lot of people forget that stuff. But I think you should always think you're the best thing since sliced bread, and then constantly prove it. Because if you just think you're great, you're probably an ass.
Words are
so
words.
At least try harder to...
Actions
try to
say more than a word ever could.
And again, back to men versus women, you guys will read through it.
Exactly. So, I believe you have helped our listeners and our audience to understand how you can be an alpha, how you can balance the day-to-day operations of yourself, your obligations, your interests, your hobbies. Find a woman that you want to spend the rest of your life with, and move on.
Well, if they listen to me for a day, you have, how often do you do this? Keep listening.
Consistency, right? Consistency is
Very
key
much
with
so.
everything. And if you're not down with making yourself better, well, you're not going to attract better.
Always improve. And it's going to change.
Always improve. So I'm going to keep improving. I'm going to keep helping these men become better alphas, better daters, better husbands, better lovers, better businessmen, because we always want better.
Yep. Gives a different perspective. Because everyone gets stuck in what they think. Listen to people like Dr. Chantea. It helps.
There we go. And if you're not listening to me and you are not on... Okay, I don't know if you haven't downloaded my app yet. I really don't know what you're waiting for, because all of this that we talk about is yours. Yours, and yours. I don't need to be a better alpha male. I am not an alpha male, but I am one hell of an alpha female. So let's keep going. Get that app, the Alpha Male Society. You want to be a part of it because it's awesome. The things that we're going to do, you have no idea. And if you don't know, well, it's time to know. So the app's great. I want you to enjoy it. I want you to contribute with me. Let's see where we can take you, because I'm very proud of everything that you have accomplished. I love it. Let the wing girl do her job. You go date those beautiful women. Keep crushing life. And I'm going to see you real soon.